The moment Meghan Markle stepped onto the cobblestone streets of Paris, the world seemed to hold its breath. Cameras clicked like relentless metronomes, flashes lighting up the evening air, bouncing off the towering facades of the city's most iconic avenues. She was dressed in a pristine, all-white ensemble, the kind of outfit that could make even the most seasoned fashion critics pause in awe. Every step she took was measured, deliberate, confident, but underneath that polished exterior, there was a tension, a nervous anticipation that few could see, but everyone could feel. The Balenciaga Womenswear Spring-Summer 2026 show wasn't just another event on the fashion calendar. It was a proving ground, a stage where influence, power, and prestige collided in front of an audience of the world's elite. And Meghan intended to make her mark. From the moment she arrived, whispers began circulating among the crowd. "She's here," one fashion editor murmured. "And she's expecting an iconic photo op." The cameras weren't just capturing her. They were capturing a narrative, a carefully curated story of Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, the royal-turned-celebrity, navigating a world she had long desired to dominate. But every story has its turning point, and in Paris that night, the turning point arrived in the form of a woman who needed no introduction, Nicole Kidman. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Nicole entered the venue with the kind of poise and presence that commands attention without demanding it. Every step she took was perfectly in sync with the rhythm of the room, every gaze drawn naturally to her, every whisper of admiration trailing in her wake. To the untrained eye, it was simply elegance. To those who understood the invisible power dynamics of Hollywood and global celebrity, it was an unmistakable assertion of dominance. The room subtly shifted, as if acknowledging that Nicole was not just present, she owned the space. And then, as if drawn by an invisible thread of ambition, Meghan approached. The crowd's energy shifted once again, now charged with a mixture of anticipation and unspoken tension. Meghan's eyes met Nicole's, and in that instant, a silent exchange occurred, a collision of worlds, a clash of expectations. The Duchess extended a hand, a polite request forming in her eyes. The photo op that would immortalize this moment, a symbolic union of royalty and Hollywood royalty. But Nicole's response was not the one anyone expected. The rejection was subtle, almost imperceptible to the casual observer, yet devastating in its clarity. A slight shake of the head, a polite but firm smile, enough to deflate the anticipation, enough to ignite a silent storm. Cameras captured it all. The flashes didn't just illuminate the scene. They amplified the tension, freezing in time the exact moment when expectation met refusal. And in the chaos of the crowd, whispers grew louder. Did she just? I can't believe it. Meghan Markle rejected? At that moment, the air was thick with more than just perfume and camera flashes. There was history here, unspoken rivalries, invisible currents of jealousy, and the subtle machinations of image management. Every action, every glance, every expression carried weight far beyond what the eye could see. The rejection wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. In a room where appearances are everything and influence is currency, a single refusal can ripple outwards, creating waves that no one can predict. Inside Meghan's mind, the emotional landscape was turbulent. On the outside, she maintained a composed, regal demeanor, shoulders squared, chin high. But behind that carefully curated mask, there was disbelief, frustration, perhaps even a flicker of humiliation. How could this happen? She had prepared meticulously for this night, ensured that every detail of her appearance, her timing, her aura, was flawless. And yet, one simple gesture, a polite denial, threatened to unravel it all. Meanwhile, Nicole's poise never wavered. She had entered the arena not just as an actress, but as a symbol of Hollywood's enduring power. Every interaction, every rejection, every smile was calculated, whether consciously or instinctively, to maintain her own position at the top. She understood, perhaps better than anyone in that room, that moments like these are watched, dissected, and replayed endlessly. A single decision could define perception for years to come. As the night progressed, the cameras didn't stop. Photographers adjusted their lenses, trying to capture the subtle nuances of this encounter. Social media began to stir even before the event concluded. By the time the Balenciaga show ended, the story had already begun to take on a life of its own, spinning through feeds, headlines, and gossip columns worldwide. Fans and critics alike debated what they had witnessed. Was it a snub, a power move, or simply a miscommunication magnified by circumstance? But behind the spectacle, the real drama was only beginning. Staff members, PR teams, and advisors circled like vigilant guardians, each trying to navigate the fallout, each acutely aware that the optics of this interaction could have repercussions far beyond a single fashion show. Palace aides whispered into secure phone lines. Hollywood agents drafted rapid statements. Designers and editors exchanged furtive glances, calculating how to handle coverage that was no longer just about fashion. It was about influence, status, and the fragile veneer of celebrity diplomacy. And then came the moment no one saw coming. A single, leaked photo from the night, taken from the perfect angle to capture Meghan's anticipation and Nicole's firm refusal, hit the internet. Within seconds, it went viral. Headlines screamed of the unprecedented public snub. Fans erupted in outrage, divided along invisible lines of loyalty. Social media debates flared. Who was in the right? Who was wrong? And what did this mean for Meghan's carefully cultivated public image? The story was no longer confined to Paris. It had become a global spectacle, unfolding in real time, fueled by every click, every share, every comment. Even as the world reacted, the subtler currents remained unseen. Historical rivalries, backstage tensions, whispered advice from advisors, and carefully hidden alliances were all converging in that one moment, creating a web of drama that would unravel slowly, layer by layer. This was not merely about a photo. It was about identity, power, and perception in the modern age. Who controlled the narrative? Who commanded attention? And who, ultimately, would emerge victorious in this high-stakes clash of royalty and Hollywood royalty? And just when it seemed the drama had reached its peak, something unexpected happened. Meghan, composed on the surface but burning with silent determination, made a move that no one anticipated, an action that would escalate the story, transform public perception, and draw Nicole into a whirlwind far beyond a simple fashion show encounter. But what exactly did Meghan do next? How did Nicole respond behind closed doors, away from the cameras and the flashing lenses? And more importantly, what ripple effects would this moment create across Hollywood, royal circles, and social media? The answers would not come immediately. They would unfold slowly, layer by layer, in a story filled with twists, revelations, and emotional highs and lows. A single encounter at Paris Fashion Week had set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted, a chain that would expose vulnerabilities, ignite debates, and leave everyone watching wondering, who really holds the power when fame, prestige, and personal ambition collide in one explosive night? The night was just beginning, and the world had no idea how far the repercussions would reach. Every eye, every lens, every whispered comment was now part of the story, part of the tension that had been set into motion. And at the heart of it all stood two women, each commanding their own universe, their worlds colliding in a spectacle that would be dissected, analyzed, and remembered for years to come. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. The streets of Paris were electric that evening. Every light seemed brighter, every shadow deeper, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Fashion Week had always been a spectacle, a dazzling display of art, ambition, and power. But on this particular night, the world's attention narrowed to one single figure walking the cobblestones with calculated elegance, Meghan Markle. The Duchess of Sussex, draped in her all-white ensemble, seemed almost luminous against the backdrop of the historic French capital. Cameras snapped incessantly, flashes lighting up her path as she made her entrance. And yet, beneath her composed exterior, there was a tension few could see, a nervous pulse that quickened with every step. It wasn't just another show. Paris Fashion Week had a reputation for making or breaking reputations in a single night. Designers, models, celebrities, and influencers alike gathered to witness trends, gossip, and status in motion. And now, all eyes were on Meghan. She had cultivated this moment for months. Every outfit, every accessory, every detail had been carefully considered. White was her armor, an emblem of sophistication, purity, and a statement of audacity. But even the most meticulous planning can falter when two worlds collide, royalty and Hollywood. The moment she stepped onto the red carpet, whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Fashion editors exchanged glances, murmuring about her poise, her aura, and the audacity of appearing at one of the most exclusive shows in the world. "She's here to make a statement," one photographer muttered, adjusting his lens. And everyone knows it. The anticipation was tangible, almost electric. Fans outside the venue had already begun live streaming, their phones pointed toward the unfolding spectacle. Comments raced across social media feeds. "Queen energy, watch her steal the show. Meghan in Paris, iconic." But as the cameras focused and the flashes erupted, Meghan was acutely aware of something else, a subtle shift in the air, a tension that wasn't just about the fashion. There was someone else entering the frame tonight, someone whose presence carried its own gravity, whose aura could challenge hers even before a word was spoken. Nicole Kidman. Nicole's entrance was the kind that doesn't just command attention, it compels it. The room subtly realigned, as if the very energy of the space bent toward her. She was impeccably dressed, her every movement a careful balance of grace and dominance. The crowd recognized her instantly, but the power of her presence went beyond recognition. It was the kind of power that made you pause, take stock, and recalibrate your own expectations. Nicole didn't need the cameras. She didn't need the applause. Her mere presence set the tone. For Meghan, that realization hit like a quiet shock. The moment she spotted Nicole across the room, a subtle tension threaded through her carefully controlled composure. She had been here to shine, to claim her moment, and yet now, the stakes had shifted. The image of two powerful women occupying the same space, vying for attention and acknowledgement, created an unspoken duel, one that the cameras could capture but the audience might not fully understand. As Meghan navigated the crowd, she was acutely aware of every detail. The way the photographers angled their lenses, the way whispers spread from group to group, the way other celebrities shifted their gaze, not in reverence, but in anticipation of a confrontation that had yet to happen. Every step she took was measured, every smile practiced, every gesture designed to convey confidence and elegance. And yet, beneath it all, there was a flicker of uncertainty. How would this interaction unfold? Would Nicole acknowledge her, grant the symbolic photo that would seal the moment, or would she withhold it, asserting her own dominance in subtle, inescapable ways? The Duchess approached the designated seating area, her heels clicking against the polished floors like a metronome marking the tension. Around her, editors, stylists, and assistants whispered, their eyes darting nervously between Meghan and Nicole. "This is bigger than we thought," one stylist muttered, her voice barely audible. "It's not just fashion, it's power." The words lingered, unspoken but palpable, as Meghan settled into her place. She exuded calm, her posture impeccable, but inside, her mind was racing. Every interaction tonight could become a headline. Every glance could be dissected, and every misstep could be amplified tenfold across the globe. The crowd's energy was intoxicating, a mixture of admiration, envy, and expectation. The photographer's shutters clicked in a relentless rhythm, capturing Meghan's every expression, every movement. Social media feeds buzzed, live commentary streaming in from every corner of the world. Fans debated, speculated, and theorized, dissecting the Duchess's appearance in real time. "She's owning it," tweeted one fan. "She looks unshakable." Another countered, "Wait until she tries to interact with Nicole." And that was the unseen variable, the one everyone was subconsciously waiting for, the encounter that could define the night, the clash that could overshadow the show itself. Meghan's eyes scanned the room, landing briefly on Nicole. There was a moment of recognition, a fleeting connection that carried more weight than a handshake or a nod could convey. It was a silent acknowledgement. Two women, both accustomed to commanding rooms, measuring influence, and navigating the treacherous currents of fame, were now on a collision course. The tension between them was almost theatrical, and yet it was real, loaded with implications that extended far beyond the immediate moment. Every detail mattered. The way Meghan adjusted her jacket, the tilt of her head, the faint glimmer of anticipation in her eyes. All of it was scrutinized, both by the cameras and by the invisible audience of advisors, stylists, and aides monitoring every move. The stakes were monumental. This wasn't simply about a photograph or a fashion show. It was about perception, about narrative control, about asserting presence in a world where visibility equaled power. One gesture could be framed as confidence, another as arrogance. One smile could be celebrated, another dissected. The calculus was complex, and the margin for error minuscule. And then, the moment arrived. Meghan made her move toward Nicole, a polite, calculated approach, every step deliberate, every gesture signaling deference yet asserting her own status. She extended a hand, and with it, an unspoken request. The photo op that would immortalize their encounter, a symbolic meeting of royalty and Hollywood royalty, a moment designed to be captured, shared, and remembered. The world, in that instant, was watching. But Nicole's response, subtle as it was, carried the weight of finality. A slight shake of the head, a measured smile, a refusal wrapped in grace and poise. The cameras captured it all, the disappointment, the tension, the silent drama unfolding in real time. Meghan's carefully orchestrated plan had hit an unexpected obstacle, and the repercussions would ripple outward far beyond the ballroom, beyond Paris, and across the globe. Whispers surged through the crowd. Editors murmured. Assistants exchanged hurried glances. The social media storm had already begun before the night was even over. Tweets flew, posts circulated, and the story began to take on a life of its own. Fans debated, dividing along invisible lines of loyalty and allegiance. Was it a snub? One asked. Or a calculated move? Another wondered. The moment had transcended fashion. It had become a spectacle of influence, power, and social maneuvering. And as Meghan processed the rejection, her mind raced. This was not simply a minor embarrassment. It was a public statement, a shift in perception, a challenge that demanded response. Behind the composed exterior, emotions churned, frustration, disbelief, the sting of being denied in such a visible, consequential way. Yet, beneath it all, there was determination, a quiet, simmering resolve to reclaim the narrative, to assert presence, and to ensure that this night would be remembered not as a defeat, but as a turning point. The scene, frozen in flashes and whispers, set the tone for the drama that would unfold. Paris Fashion Week was no longer merely a showcase of trends. It had become a stage for a collision of worlds, a clash of personas, and a moment that would reverberate through social media, news cycles, and the inner circles of power. The anticipation of what came next was almost unbearable. Every eye, every lens, every whispered conversation was now part of a story that would unravel slowly, layer by layer, revealing secrets, alliances, and rivalries that no one had predicted. But what Meghan would do next, and how Nicole would respond behind the cameras, would change the night, and perhaps even the course of public perception, forever. The world had only just begun to witness the tension that would dominate Paris Fashion Week, and the echoes of this encounter were far from finished. What came next would set the stage for a confrontation that no one could have foreseen. The moment Nicole Kidman entered the venue, the atmosphere shifted like a tide changing course. It was subtle at first, a pause in conversations, a brief silence in the clicks of cameras, but anyone attuned to power dynamics could feel it immediately. Nicole didn't just walk into a room. She inhabited it, claiming it with an effortless authority that no one could ignore. Every step was deliberate, measured, and confident, her heels clicking rhythmically against the polished floors like the heartbeat of the night itself. Photographers swiveled toward her, lenses snapping incessantly, capturing angles that would later dominate magazines and social media feeds around the world. But it wasn't just about being seen. It was about being acknowledged, commanding attention without demanding it, and asserting a presence that reshaped the narrative of the evening before Meghan even moved a muscle. Nicole's aura was palpable. The air seemed to shimmer as she walked past, a subtle but undeniable energy radiating from her. Editors whispered in awe. Stylists adjusted gowns, some unconsciously deferring to the force of her charisma. Attendees, seasoned veterans of Paris Fashion Week, paused mid-conversation, drawn toward her magnetic presence. In the world of Hollywood and high fashion, influence isn't always loud. Often, it's quiet, unwavering, and impossible to ignore, and Nicole embodied all of it. And then there was Meghan. Across the room, the Duchess of Sussex couldn't help but notice the subtle shift, a ripple of acknowledgement spreading like wildfire. She had prepared meticulously for this night. Every hair, every hem, every accessory had been curated to perfection. Every movement had been rehearsed mentally, a choreography designed to capture attention, to command respect, to secure her place in the hierarchy of visibility. But Nicole's entrance altered the dynamics, creating an invisible tension that Meghan had not fully anticipated. For Nicole, the encounter was nothing new. She had faced scrutiny, competition, and expectation throughout her career, and she had mastered the art of maintaining composure under pressure. Yet even she recognized the symbolic weight of Meghan's presence. Here was a duchess, a woman of global fascination, stepping into the same space, claiming visibility, and subtly demanding acknowledgement. Nicole's measured smile and poised posture were both acknowledgement and subtle assertion, a reminder that presence alone could communicate volumes. The crowd sensed the tension instantly. Editors and journalists exchanged knowing glances, realizing they were witnessing more than a fashion moment. It was a collision of worlds, a meeting of influence, a carefully choreographed clash between Hollywood and royalty. The whispers spread like wildfire. Did you see Meghan? She's trying to get the photo. Nicole doesn't even flinch. This is going to dominate social media by morning. Backstage, assistants and advisors were equally tense. Meghan's team whispered rapid instructions, adjusting angles, ensuring that every possible photograph would capture the Duchess in her best light. Nicole's entourage, equally vigilant, maintained a protective perimeter, aware that every movement and expression would be scrutinized, interpreted, and replayed endlessly. This wasn't merely a fashion event. It was a theater of optics, where every decision could ripple across the globe in seconds. Nicole's stride carried her directly into the heart of the venue, where Meghan had positioned herself strategically. Every step was intentional, each movement calculated to maintain her own authority while subtly challenging Meghan's claim to attention. She smiled, acknowledging the crowd, but her eyes held a quiet firmness, a controlled focus that subtly communicated, without words, that her position would not be easily contested. The tension escalated as the two women approached proximity, the world seemingly holding its breath. Meghan extended her hand in a gesture of diplomacy and subtle ambition, the photo op that would symbolize recognition, alliance, and the merging of worlds. Nicole's response was poised, composed, and decisive. With a slight shake of her head, she signaled refusal. There was no anger, no overt disdain, just a graceful, unyielding denial that instantly became the focal point of every camera, every whisper, and every social media feed. The effect was immediate. A ripple ran through the crowd, subtle but unmistakable. The photographers adjusted their angles, ensuring the rejection was captured in all its silent drama. Editors and journalists exchanged glances, already drafting headlines that would dominate morning news cycles. Meghan Markle snubbed by Nicole Kidman at Paris Fashion Week. Royalty meets Hollywood. The moment that shocked Paris. Social media erupted before the night had even ended, with instant analysis, speculation, and fan debates raging across platforms worldwide. But behind the public spectacle, the subtler currents continued to move. Backstage whispers spoke of past encounters, subtle rivalries, and the unspoken hierarchies that governed elite social spaces. Advisors murmured, calculating the implications of the encounter, considering how to frame or spin the moment to protect their client's image. The cameras captured one narrative, the insiders navigated another. And in the midst of it all, the two women remained statuesque, each acutely aware of the other's power, influence, and potential to dominate the story. Nicole's entrance had done more than simply redirect attention. It had reset the evening's energy, recalibrated the social dynamics, and introduced a new axis of tension that would define every subsequent interaction. Meghan, for all her preparation and poise, now faced a moment that demanded strategy, composure, and subtle maneuvering. This was no longer about fashion or visibility alone. It was about the unspoken battle for influence, the careful dance of optics, and the assertion of personal authority on a world stage where every detail mattered. And as Nicole moved gracefully past, the air thickened with anticipation. Everyone in the room knew that this was not merely a meeting of celebrities. It was a clash of personas, a moment that would echo far beyond the confines of the Balenciaga show. Who would emerge in control of the narrative? Who would command attention? And more importantly, how would Meghan respond to this first, undeniable challenge of the night? The night was far from over, and the world had only just begun to witness the subtle choreography of power, influence, and perception. But what came next? The precise interaction that would define the evening, the photograph that would become viral, and the silent negotiation of dominance would change everything. No one could have predicted the intensity of what was about to unfold. And with that, Nicole Kidman had entered the room, and the stage was set. The air in the Balenciaga venue was thick with anticipation, every flash of a camera punctuating the electric tension between Meghan Markle and Nicole Kidman. The moment had arrived, the encounter that everyone in the room, consciously or unconsciously, had been waiting for. Meghan, poised in her immaculate all-white ensemble, understood the stakes. This wasn't merely about fashion or visibility. This was a strategic move, a calculated effort to cement her presence, influence, and status on a global stage where optics could define perception in seconds. She approached with careful deliberation. Every step was measured, her heels clicking against the polished floors in a rhythm that seemed to echo through the venue. Her eyes, calm yet determined, fixed on Nicole. It was a gesture of diplomacy, grace, and subtle ambition all at once. Meghan's hand extended, a silent request for the photo op that would symbolize recognition, a merging of worlds, royalty meeting Hollywood royalty in one iconic frame. The crowd, sensing the gravity of the moment, collectively held its breath. From Nicole's perspective, the gesture was clear, yet delicate. Acknowledging Meghan without conceding dominance required subtlety. Nicole's smile, composed and controlled, was a masterclass in poise. Her body language communicated politeness, professionalism, and an unspoken assertion. This was her territory, and any interaction would proceed on her terms. The balance between acknowledgement and power, between public expectation and personal discretion, was razor-thin. Every eye in the room registered the tension, every photographer adjusted their angles, every social media user leaned in virtually, anticipating the unfolding drama. The first few seconds were silent, yet deafening. Meghan's hand hovered, poised for the iconic click, her expression a blend of expectation and unspoken command. Nicole's eyes met hers, evaluating, measuring, and ultimately deciding the boundaries of the interaction. There was an unspoken understanding. This was no casual meet and greet. This was a negotiation of status, a subtle contest of influence played out under the unforgiving gaze of the cameras and the global audience. Meghan's team, a flurry of whispers and gestures behind her, had prepared for every scenario. They had rehearsed the angles, the smiles, the timing. But no amount of preparation could dictate Nicole's response. The Duchess of Sussex was acutely aware that this moment would be dissected by millions, replayed in endless loops, analyzed for nuance, intention, and impact. It wasn't just a photo opportunity. It was a battleground where optics, perception, and influence collided. Nicole's response, measured and precise, was a study in controlled denial. A slight shake of the head, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, signaled refusal without confrontation. Her smile remained intact, graceful and unyielding, conveying respect without yielding control. The crowd, however, caught the subtle cues immediately. Editors and journalists leaned forward, noting every micro-expression, every subtle gesture. The air buzzed with anticipation, a collective awareness that they were witnessing something rare, the polite but unmistakable rejection of one high-profile figure by another, both fully aware of the implications. For Meghan, the refusal was a shockwave, not one of anger, perhaps, but of sudden recalibration. She had envisioned this moment differently. Imagined the photo as a symbol of mutual acknowledgement, a perfect intersection of fame, royalty, and influence. Yet Nicole's measured response demanded adaptation. Meghan's composure, however, remained intact. The Duchess's inner determination surged, quietly reshaping her strategy. The optics might have shifted, but the narrative was still hers to influence, if she played her cards carefully. The surrounding crowd was electric. Photographers clicked with renewed intensity, capturing every nuance of Meghan's posture, Nicole's subtle smile, and the silent dialogue unfolding between them. The flashes didn't just illuminate, they amplified the drama, freezing the tension in time. Social media had already begun to react, with live feeds broadcasting snippets of the encounter, fan speculation spreading like wildfire. Comments ranged from admiration for Meghan's poise to awe at Nicole's command of the moment. The debate was instant. Who had the upper hand? And what did the interaction reveal about the unspoken hierarchies at play? Behind the scenes, aides and assistants worked feverishly. Meghan's team whispered rapid strategies, adjusting angles, positioning for potential follow-up opportunities, and ensuring that every gesture projected strength, grace, and composure. Nicole's entourage, equally vigilant, maintained subtle boundaries, protecting their client's space while ensuring the interaction remained polite, professional, and under Nicole's control. Every participant understood the stakes. A single misstep could dominate headlines, social media, and public perception for days, if not weeks. The tension wasn't solely about status, it was about narrative. In today's media landscape, perception often outweighs reality. A single photograph could define public opinion, influence trends, and shape the reputations of everyone involved. Meghan had meticulously crafted her image, blending royal elegance with contemporary relevance. Nicole had spent decades refining hers, mastering the art of presence, influence, and poise. Now, the collision of those carefully curated identities created a dynamic that few could ignore. The silence of those initial moments amplified the drama. Words were unnecessary. The cameras captured everything, translating subtle gestures into global headlines. The world seemed to pause, collectively holding its breath, aware that this was not merely a fashion encounter, but a symbolic clash of influence, charisma, and perception. Every observer, from seasoned editors to casual social media users, understood instinctively. This was a moment that would be remembered. Then, as the seconds stretched into what felt like minutes, Meghan adjusted her posture slightly, maintaining grace while signaling quiet persistence. The Duchess's eyes, steady and resolute, conveyed a silent message. Acknowledgement could be won, influence could be asserted, and the narrative could still be shaped. Nicole, ever composed, remained poised, allowing the tension to exist without yielding. It was a delicate dance, a negotiation played out in the universal language of body movement, expression, and optics. The crowd's anticipation mounted. Editors whispered to colleagues, reporters scribbled notes, and photographers readied for the shot that would define the night. Social media feeds exploded with speculation. Is Nicole snubbing Meghan? Royalty versus Hollywood. Who will claim the narrative? That expression says everything. The viral potential of the moment became evident in real time, the stakes magnified by the instantaneous reach of modern media. But it wasn't just about the optics. The encounter carried emotional weight. Meghan's carefully managed composure concealed the inner turmoil, the desire for acknowledgement, the recognition of her own ambitions, and the awareness that this interaction was a rare and high-stakes test. Nicole's subtle firmness communicated more than refusal. It was an assertion of control, a reminder that influence was earned, maintained, and respected. The silent dialogue between the two women encapsulated a lifetime of preparation, strategy, and social navigation. And then came the first ripple of consequences. A photographer captured the precise moment of refusal, the image striking for its clarity and tension. Editors and journalists immediately recognized its potential impact, drafting headlines and social media posts. The photograph, though subtle, conveyed drama, influence, and an unspoken narrative of challenge and power. Within minutes, the story began to circulate online, fans and critics dissecting the encounter, creating discussions that ranged from admiration to debate, speculation to analysis. For Meghan, this was both a setback and an opportunity. The refusal could have been a blow, a diminishment of her carefully curated image. Yet she maintained composure, understanding that narrative could still be reclaimed, influence could still be asserted, and public perception could be shaped through strategic action. The moment had become a crucible, testing not only her poise but her ability to navigate high-stakes social dynamics in a hyper-visible environment. Nicole's presence, unwavering and elegant, set the tone for the remainder of the evening. She had established control without confrontation, influence without aggression. Meghan, poised and resilient, began recalibrating, aware that this encounter had transformed the dynamics of the night, creating a complex web of optics, perception, and narrative that would unfold slowly, meticulously, and with consequences that extended far beyond Paris. And as the two women navigated the room, the crowd, the photographers, and the endless lenses of social media, one fact became clear. This was no longer merely a photo opportunity. It was a symbolic confrontation, a subtle power struggle, and a moment that would be remembered, analyzed, and debated for months to come. The night had been irrevocably transformed by a single, silent refusal, a refusal that carried the weight of reputation, influence, and global scrutiny. But what Meghan would do next, the move that could reclaim the narrative, assert her presence, and challenge Nicole's quiet dominance, was still unseen. And when it happened, it would shock the world, reshaping perceptions and igniting conversations far beyond the confines of Paris Fashion Week. The moment had arrived that everyone in Paris, both in the Balenciaga venue and across the world via live feeds, would remember. Meghan Markle, poised in her immaculate white ensemble, extended her hand toward Nicole Kidman, expecting acknowledgement, expecting collaboration, expecting a simple photograph that would immortalize the night. But Nicole's response was a study in subtle power, a refusal so quiet it could have been missed by an inattentive eye. But the cameras didn't miss it. Every lens, every angle, every photographer captured it. A polite shake of the head, a controlled smile, and a silent denial that resonated louder than any spoken word. The effect was instantaneous. The flashbulbs popped, illuminating the tension like strobe lights in slow motion. Editors and journalists leaned forward, pens hovering above notebooks, lenses focused intently. In the world of celebrity optics, this wasn't just a minor snub. It was an event, a viral moment, a defining encounter captured for global scrutiny. The energy in the room shifted palpably, almost imperceptibly, but undeniably. A current of anticipation surged, whispering that something monumental had just occurred. The surrounding crowd reacted with a mix of awe, disbelief, and curiosity. Some attendees whispered softly, eyes darting between Meghan and Nicole. "Did you see that?" one editor murmured. Meghan expected the photo, and Nicole just said no. Others shook their heads subtly, recognizing the unspoken assertion of power. Even seasoned fashion veterans, accustomed to navigating tense celebrity encounters, leaned in, sensing the gravity of what had just unfolded. This was more than a fashion moment. It was a clash of worlds, a negotiation of influence, a demonstration of authority without confrontation. For Meghan, the rejection struck like a sudden jolt, not of anger, though frustration simmered beneath the surface, but of recalibration. She had prepared meticulously for this night, every detail carefully orchestrated to command attention, influence perception, and capture the perfect image. Yet here, in the center of one of the world's most prestigious fashion events, that plan had been interrupted by a single, elegant refusal. Meghan's composure remained intact, a testament to her training and experience, but the moment demanded instant strategic thinking. Nicole Kidman's demeanor, calm and controlled, amplified the effect. She did not falter. She did not smirk. She did not allow the denial to become personal. Instead, her posture, her subtle smile, and her unwavering poise communicated authority without aggression. The message was clear. Influence could be wielded through presence, through subtle control of perception, without ever raising a voice. The contrast between Meghan's poised anticipation and Nicole's serene refusal created a tableau that photographers would later describe as iconic, a silent narrative of power, status, and expectation captured in a single frame. The flashes of light from the cameras did more than illuminate faces, they magnified the emotional stakes. Meghan's subtle micro-expressions, the slight tightening of her lips, the quick flicker of her eyes, were all captured in high-resolution detail. Observers noted the juxtaposition, the royal figure, accustomed to respect, expectation, and carefully manage public appearances, encountering an equally iconic figure who asserted her boundaries without confrontation. The imagery was rich with narrative potential, and the world would soon dissect it relentlessly. Social media erupted in real time. Fans and critics alike speculated across platforms. Meghan snubbed at Balenciaga? One post read. Nicole standing her ground. Love it, another commented. Within minutes, the encounter became trending material, shared, retweeted, and dissected endlessly. The narrative was taking shape without anyone needing to comment. Meghan as the poised yet challenged figure, Nicole as the serene authority, and the world watching the delicate balance of influence unfold. Backstage, the tension was no less palpable. Meghan's team whispered rapid-fire instructions, adjusting positioning, reminding the Duchess to maintain poise, ensuring that any subsequent interaction could be controlled for optics. Nicole's entourage, equally vigilant, maintained subtle boundaries, protecting their client's personal space while keeping the encounter civil and composed. Every participant understood the stakes. One misstep could dominate headlines, social media trends, and public perception for weeks, if not months. The psychological weight of the rejection was significant. For Meghan, it was a challenge not merely to her immediate expectations, but to her broader public image. The photograph, the symbolic acknowledgement, had been withheld. In a world where optics define narrative, a single refusal could shift perception, subtly undermining influence or authority. Yet Meghan's response, measured and composed, reflected a keen understanding of long-term strategy. Immediate reaction could have escalated tension. Instead, she retained control, calculating her next move, waiting for the precise moment to reclaim influence. The crowd's murmurs intensified. Editors, journalists, and photographers leaned in to capture the nuanced dynamics. Meghan's posture, Nicole's expression, the subtle negotiation of space, the silent communication that spoke volumes. Every movement was magnified, every glance analyzed. In those fleeting seconds, the encounter transcended fashion, becoming a study in power, perception, and strategic interaction. Observers noted the subtle but telling details. Meghan's poised adjustment of her sleeve, Nicole's composed tilt of the head, the interplay of smiles and controlled expressions. The room became a microcosm of influence, status, and control, a living, breathing lesson in the art of public perception. Social media users dissected every image, debating tone, intention, and meaning. Some argued that Nicole had made a calculated power move. Others suggested that Meghan's presence alone had commanded respect. The debate raged, fueling the viral nature of the moment even as it unfolded in real time. For Meghan, the challenge was immediate. How to respond without diminishing composure, how to assert presence without escalating confrontation, how to maintain authority despite an unexpected denial. The Duchess's training, instinct, and experience converged, guiding her next steps. Every gesture, every smile, every adjustment became part of a broader strategy to control narrative, reclaim influence, and signal resilience. Nicole, meanwhile, maintained her poise effortlessly. The refusal had been clear but gentle, firm yet polite. She had asserted boundaries, reinforced status, and maintained control, all without words. The audience, both live and virtual, perceived the elegance of her maneuver, noting that influence could be wielded subtly, powerfully, and without overt confrontation. Her calm authority contrasted sharply with the heightened anticipation of the moment, amplifying the drama in the most understated way possible. And then came the moment that truly cemented the encounter as historic. The first viral image of the interaction, captured from the perfect angle. Meghan's poised expectation, Nicole's composed refusal, the subtle tension visible in both faces. It all converged in a single frame. Instantly recognizable, instantly shareable. Editors, social media users, and fashion commentators immediately recognized the narrative potential. Headlines formed even before the night ended. Meghan Markle publicly snubbed by Nicole Kidman at Balenciaga fashion show. Royalty meets Hollywood. A moment of tension captured in Paris. The story had transcended fashion, becoming a global spectacle, analyzed, debated, and dissected in real time. But the drama didn't end with the photograph. The emotional stakes, the social calculations, and the subtle power dynamics continued to unfold. Meghan's inner determination surged as she recalibrated her approach, preparing for the next interaction, the next strategic opportunity, and the next maneuver to reclaim control of the narrative. Nicole's calm poise ensured that every subsequent movement would carry weight, every gesture interpreted, every glance analyzed. The tension was far from resolved. The world, already captivated, was now hooked. The cameras didn't just record an encounter. They amplified it, broadcasting every nuance to an audience hungry for drama, status clashes, and subtle revelations. Meghan's poised reaction, Nicole's serene authority, and the silent negotiation of space became a study in public perception, influence, and strategy. Each observer, whether seated in the Paris venue or scrolling through a social feed thousands of miles away, became part of the narrative, participating in the drama, debating the implications, and waiting for what would happen next. And at the heart of it all, Meghan stood, poised and determined, recognizing that this rejection was not a defeat but a challenge to assert presence, command attention, and navigate the high-stakes environment of visibility, influence, and reputation. The night was far from over, and the encounter had only set the stage for the drama that would follow. But what Meghan did next, how she would reclaim the narrative, assert her influence, and respond to Nicole's quiet but firm refusal, was a moment no one could have predicted. And when it happened, it would shock the world, redefine the dynamics of the evening, and ignite discussions that would reverberate far beyond Paris Fashion Week. While the public and the cameras were fixated on the tension between Meghan Markle and Nicole Kidman, a quieter, more calculated drama was unfolding just beyond the limelight. Backstage, in the controlled chaos of Paris Fashion Week, teams of aides, PR experts, and royal advisors were scrambling to process what had just happened and to predict what might come next. To the casual observer, the spectacle was a simple denial of a photo op. To those entrenched in the machinery of image management and narrative control, it was a crisis, a subtle yet explosive moment that could ripple across the globe in seconds. Meghan's PR team, stationed just behind the velvet ropes, was already coordinating rapid-fire strategies. Smartphones buzzed incessantly, emails were typed and deleted, drafts circulated, and whispered instructions passed from one aide to another. Every detail mattered: the angle of a camera shot, the lighting, the timing, the expression. A single misstep could be seized upon by journalists or amplified on social media, threatening the carefully curated narrative that had been months, or even years, in the making. One communications director whispered urgently into an earpiece, "Ensure the next series of shots highlights her poise, not the refusal. Focus on the elegance, the confidence. This isn't a rejection, it's a moment of resilience." Another assistant furiously tapped a tablet, reviewing live feeds to determine which camera angles were most favorable, while a third monitored social media reactions, parsing commentary for sentiment and engagement. Every second counted. Every pixel mattered. Meanwhile, Meghan's royal advisors were analyzing the situation from a different perspective. Their focus wasn't just on optics. It was on precedent, protocol, and the subtle dance of influence that governs high-profile appearances. They debated quietly. Should Meghan make a direct response to Nicole's refusal? Should she retreat gracefully, maintaining dignity while avoiding confrontation? Or was this a moment to assert herself more boldly, signaling strength and agency in a space dominated by cameras and scrutiny? The room hummed with tension, advisors exchanging discreet glances, weighing the risks of each possible action. On the other side of the room, Nicole Kidman's team was equally vigilant. Her entourage maintained a protective perimeter, subtly guiding her movements, ensuring that every interaction remained controlled and professional. There was an understanding that the cameras were not only observing but interpreting, and that perception could quickly become reality. Every gesture, every glance, every slight shift in posture carried significance. Nicole's calm demeanor and composed responses were the product of decades of experience, but even the most seasoned experts were keenly aware that nothing could be left to chance in such a high-stakes environment. The assistants and aides for both women exchanged cautious observations. Whispers flitted through the backstage corridors. Did you see the hesitation? The micro-expression when Nicole shook her head? Social media is already alive with speculation. Each detail was analyzed with meticulous care, the stakes magnified by the instantaneous nature of modern media. A single photograph could define perception, shape reputations, and ignite conversations around the world in real time. Even among the fashion staff, tension was palpable. Designers, stylists, and show coordinators recognized that what unfolded backstage could overshadow the show itself. Conversations that would have normally centered around fabric, lighting, or choreography now revolved around optics, influence, and the silent power play that had just occurred. Everyone understood that in the age of social media, narrative control was as crucial as artistic excellence. A misstep, or even an unflattering image, could dominate headlines and viral feeds faster than any couture could debut. Royal protocol added another layer of complexity. Advisors debated in hushed tones. How would this interaction be perceived by the monarchy, by international observers, and by Meghan's supporters? Every gesture could be dissected for meaning, every expression interpreted as either composure or vulnerability. Meghan's advisors emphasized caution. A measured, strategic response could maintain her dignity and influence, while any overt reaction risked amplifying the rejection in ways that could harm her public image. Meanwhile, Nicole's team remained vigilant, preparing contingencies for possible public inquiries, interviews, or social media commentary. The goal was to maintain composure, avoid escalation, and subtly reinforce Nicole's authority. Every interaction had to be controlled, every response calibrated, every visual narrative aligned with the image she had cultivated over decades. The silent negotiation of influence, perception, and status extended far beyond the immediate moment, threading through future appearances, interviews, and public engagements. The tension escalated as advisors from both sides exchanged discreet observations. Meghan's stylist leaned close, whispering about posture, expression, and timing. "Hold the smile," she urged softly. "Every angle matters. Make the audience feel resilience, not defeat." Another aide nodded, eyes fixed on the live feeds, monitoring reactions and adjusting plans on the fly. The air backstage was a mix of calm professionalism and barely contained urgency, a theater of strategy operating just out of public view. It wasn't just about Meghan and Nicole, either. Photographers, journalists, and fashion editors were subtly influencing the environment. Their presence created pressure, an invisible force that shaped behavior and amplified stakes. Every glance, every angle, every shutter click contributed to the narrative being constructed in real time. Social media amplified it further, with live updates, reactions, and speculation reaching millions within seconds. The backstage environment became a nerve center, a hive of calculation, as teams worked to manage perception in a world where visibility equaled influence. For Meghan, the backstage environment was both a sanctuary and a crucible. Surrounded by aides and advisors, she was able to process the rejection strategically, planning her next moves with precision. Yet the emotional undercurrent was undeniable: frustration, anticipation, and the awareness that the world was watching. The denial, though polite, was a challenge to her ambitions, a subtle test of resilience, and an opportunity to assert agency in a high-stakes, hyper-visible environment. Nicole's team, equally strategic, observed quietly. They noted Meghan's subtle shifts, the positioning of her team, and the calculated efforts to reclaim influence. Every move, every gesture, every micro-expression was under scrutiny, a chess game played in real time, each side maneuvering to control the narrative and maintain authority. The stakes extended far beyond the fashion show. Public perception, media coverage, and long-term influence were all intertwined in this moment. Amid the flurry of strategy and observation, social media continued to buzz. Fans dissected images frame by frame, analysts debated optics, and commentators speculated about the underlying dynamics. The rejection, subtle yet unmistakable, had become a viral spectacle, spreading beyond Paris and becoming part of the global conversation. The backstage teams monitored reactions closely, anticipating how each wave of commentary would influence subsequent coverage and the broader narrative. The emotional stakes were equally significant. Meghan's team sought to reinforce confidence, resilience, and composure in the face of an unexpected challenge. Nicole's team focused on maintaining authority, clarity, and grace, ensuring that the encounter was recorded accurately but not sensationalized in ways that could escalate tension. Both sides were acutely aware that every micro-decision mattered, every second could shift perception, and every image could shape public understanding for months to come. And yet, despite the controlled chaos of backstage operations, one fact remained clear: the public had witnessed something extraordinary. A subtle refusal, a poised reaction, and a silent negotiation of influence had captured global attention. The backstage teams now faced the delicate task of managing the fallout, shaping narrative, and preparing for the next moves in this high-stakes encounter. But the real question loomed large. How would Meghan reclaim the narrative, assert influence, and respond to Nicole's subtle but powerful refusal? And how would Nicole continue to maintain authority in a room filled with cameras, social media, and global scrutiny? The answers would unfold slowly, layer by layer, revealing strategies, alliances, and maneuvers that the public could only glimpse through carefully curated glimpses of photos and commentary. The backstage drama was as consequential as the public spectacle, a testament to the complexity of influence, perception, and reputation in the modern age. And as the night progressed, one truth became undeniable. The collision of Meghan Markle and Nicole Kidman was not merely a fleeting moment. It was a pivotal event, a lesson in optics, strategy, and the delicate art of power in high-stakes environments. But what happened next? The private decision that would ripple into public headlines and social media storms would shock even the most seasoned observers. The moment the cameras captured Nicole Kidman's subtle refusal and Meghan Markle's poised response, the digital world ignited. Social media didn't wait for formal announcements, press releases, or gossip columns. Within seconds, the encounter, an elegant, quiet, yet unmistakable clash, became the focal point of discussion, debate, and speculation across platforms worldwide. Twitter feeds exploded, Instagram stories filled with live reactions, and TikTok creators began breaking down every nuance of posture, facial expression, and body language. The Paris Fashion Week stage had transformed from a venue for couture into a global theater of perception and influence. Fans were the first to react. Loyalists to Meghan flooded timelines with messages of support, celebrating her composure in the face of a subtle but visible snub. "She's owning it," one fan tweeted, adding a string of heart emojis. "No one does elegance like Meghan." Instagram pages dedicated to royal fashion instantly posted side-by-side images of the Duchess and Nicole, with captions framing Meghan as graceful, resilient, and unshaken. Every angle, every flash, every micro-expression was analyzed for evidence of confidence, control, and poise. Meanwhile, Nicole's fans and Hollywood enthusiasts quickly countered, emphasizing her calm authority, decades-long mastery of public presence, and refusal to bend to expectation. Nicole didn't need a photo to assert dominance. One post read, "Grace over glamour every time." Fashion bloggers and commentators dissected the scene with surgical precision, analyzing Nicole's body language, her subtle smile, and the quiet firmness that had made her refusal both polite and assertive. The image of control versus expectation instantly became a discussion point, with audiences debating the unspoken power dynamics in play. Social media trends rapidly divided into factions. Hashtags like hashtag Team Meghan, hashtag Team Nicole, hashtag Balenciaga Drama, and hashtag Royal Hollywood Clash began trending simultaneously, creating virtual camps of opinion and allegiance. Influencers, journalists, and casual observers alike contributed to the narrative, each interpretation shaping public perception. Every post, every share, every comment amplified the tension, transforming what might have been a fleeting moment into a global spectacle with lasting ramifications. Fan reactions varied widely. Some praised Meghan for her resilience and composure, framing her as a figure who, despite the unexpected challenge, maintained dignity and elegance. Others suggested she had miscalculated, failing to anticipate Nicole's subtle assertion of authority, and questioned whether the refusal had temporarily undermined her influence. Similarly, Nicole's supporters emphasized her mastery of public optics, her calm assertiveness, and her ability to command attention without confrontation. Analysts, commentators, and social media users dissected every nuance, debating the meaning behind microexpressions, eye contact, and the choreography of movement. The digital frenzy wasn't limited to the photos themselves. Video clips from various angles circulated rapidly, slowed down, and replayed to capture subtle shifts in posture, facial expression, and energy. Analysts highlighted Meghan's slight adjustment of her sleeve, the flicker of her gaze, and the subtle tension in her posture. Nicole's measured smile, the gentle tilt of her head, and the precise distance maintained in the encounter were all scrutinized for meaning. Each observation contributed to a layered narrative that extended far beyond what any single image could convey. Memes began to emerge almost immediately, blending humor, drama, and commentary. One popular meme juxtaposed a poised Meghan captioned with expectation against a serene Nicole captioned with reality, encapsulating the clash in a single, digestible visual. Another meme featured paparazzi flashes with exaggerated expressions of shock and awe, humorously amplifying the stakes of the encounter. While playful in nature, these viral creations further reinforced the narrative, ensuring the moment would persist in public consciousness far beyond the live event. The frenzy didn't stop at fans and casual observers. Fashion critics, celebrity analysts, and media outlets began producing content that examined the encounter with a fine-tooth comb. Articles appeared detailing historical comparisons, power dynamics, and the unspoken hierarchy at play between Hollywood icons and royalty. Analysts explored not only the immediate optics, but also the long-term implications for both Meghan and Nicole, considering how a single refusal could influence reputation, perception, and future opportunities in fashion, media, and global influence. The global reach of social media meant that reactions came from unexpected corners of the world. Fans in Asia debated the dynamics of the interaction with keen interest, noting cultural interpretations of politeness, refusal, and authority. European followers scrutinized the subtleties in posture and gaze, comparing them to traditional etiquette and social expectation. North American audiences dissected the optics in terms of celebrity culture, power, and image management.